Welcome to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. Here's your MotorWeek podcast host, John Davis.
For the 200-1 time, thank you, Alec Webb. Welcome, everyone, to MotorWeek podcast number 199. I'm John Davis, and joining me today in Studio C at MotorWeek Central is writer-producer Brian Robinson.
Hello.
Online content coordinator Greg Carlos.
Hi there.
Our road test producer Ben Davis. No relations. I don't know why I say that every week. Ben Davis.
Sir.
Video producer and editor and all-around great guy Joe Ligo.
Stop telling lies about me. I'm not great.
We have a viewer question. We've got a follow-up to the viewer question. We've got a lightning round. We've got trucks. We've got cars. We've got a little of everything on this show. So here we go. Let's get right into it. We are recently back from our winter testing trip down to the Roebling Road Raceway near Savannah, Georgia. And because it's a racetrack, we often take pretty much all high-performance vehicles down there. This year, we had quite a group, and we're going to talk about three of them on today's program. The first, the 2019 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. This is one of the last of the outgoing generation of Porsches. Not that it makes much difference. An incredible car. What do you sitting at this table are some of the best drivers on the show
In the world.
In the world, right here at MotorWeek Center. What did you guys think? What did you think?
It's one of the few non-turbo 911s you can still get. It's basically just a GT3 with a bunch of weight taken out. 20 extra horsepower and PDK only.
520 horsepower.
And it goes around a track like that's what it was built for.
RS must stand for really speedy, because I did not see a single person get out of that car that didn't have a big grin on their face.
After my first go around in it, I actually came out with some expletives. It was that
Positively, I hope.
It was that
yeah.
fat. I think my first run in it was the acceleration runs that we did, which we clocked in at 3.1. But that thing I could pretty much guarantee that we could go lower.
That was I should point. That was a 30-degry day. The track was ice
so
cold.
we got 3.1 seconds. I can see it easily in a sub 3, probably 2.9 range. It was PDK only, which is one of the differences between the RS and a standard GT3. Standard GT3 will get a manual transmission if you like it. GT3 RS is PDK only. To me, it doesn't really diminish any of the fun. It is just stupid fast, stupid loud. And Ben and I had a conversation. We were finishing up at Roebling, basically just driving whatever we had, and we were swapping back and forth between the GT3 and a 911T. And we had a little bit of a disagreement. I thought that the GT3 was more fun to drive, and he felt that the 911T was more fun to drive.
You want to weigh in?
Yeah, I did. It was weird for some reason. I guess because, I don't know, for some reason the 911T felt more natural to me. Maybe I had more fun driving it because it was easier to get to that wall of fear and get over top of it. And maybe I was just thinking of the fragility of the human body too much in the GT3 and my age and stuff like that.
The family back home.
And it was really the only day that I got into each one of those cars. So I didn't have a whole lot of laps in either one. But granted, I was going faster in the GT3 RS, no doubt. But I had to work. To me, it wasn't as much fun as the T.
Was it that you had to drive it so much harder to get to that point?
Yeah, I got in the T, drove it really hard, and it was really rewarding. I maybe got into the GT3 and drove it the same amount, and it felt like I wasn't, I was just wasting the car, just
laughing at you,
bringing it out to its full potential.
Everything happens so much quicker in the GT3.
Yeah, that was the thing I noticed, is that like all my turn-in spots were completely wrong, because like as soon as you even look at the steering wheel, it wants to turn in, which means all right, time to go faster and turn in later. and it just responded. I think the reason I like it so much is because you can treat it like a race car. You can brake hard late. You can just turn it in, and it does what you want. You don't have to be very gentle with it like you do with other cars.
Yeah, twice the amount of downforce, I guess we should add, as the regular GT3 as well.
And the sound, if I could just reiterate the sound from inside and outside, really, it's to die for.
It was a stunning car. One of the things that's very hard about when you go out testing vehicles and you have to immediately put down your comments and impressions about them is being able to look at each vehicle independently so that when you drive one, it doesn't cloud your vision of the other. I bring this up because the next car we're going to talk about, if you can't really call it a car, not sure what it is, it's the Lamborghini Urus, their SUV, their first one. It's been quite a long time coming. Everyone's been hearing about it for 2 years now. We finally had a chance to get an Urus at the racetrack thanks to Lamborghini. And here you go from a lightweight 911 GT3 RS to a heavyweight, and you don't know exactly what to expect when you get in. What was everybody's first reaction after that first lap? Brian?
Well, first of all, it's not their first SUV. That would be the
LM002.
The Rambo Lambo. Yeah. Way back when. Check out our retro review on that. It was a little disconcerting at first, just because all of the handling is there, and it turns in very quickly. It feels like a Lamborghini, but you're just sitting so far off the ground.
And a lot of weight.
And you're expecting like a lot of roll, and it doesn't even roll that much. But you just the sense
you're waiting for it to roll.
Yeah, that far off the ground, and then turning in that quickly. It definitely takes a while to get used to.
I think, like you probably nailed it on the head. It's the biggest drawback is just the mindset that you're in being in an SUV, because it can handle everything you throw at it and then some. But I had the same feeling. It's like my first lap, I'm like, okay, it's going to roll this much. It's going to not stop in this time. But it did the exact opposite of those things.
He did everything that
very weird.
A Lamborghini supercar
You're
would
almost
do.
like, wait a second, you shouldn't be this good, but you're never willing to tempt it further, because you're just like,
you don't want to put it on
going to be the
stores.
time where it snaps.
Right, you don't want to put
it
it
never
on
did.
stores.
It never did for me. I thought it was just fine on the track. Wouldn't
Can't
be my
really
first
add to
choice.
any of those things.
It was a phenomenal. It was phenomenal to sit on the side of the track to watch that 2-ton plus Urus go by. It was a blazing yellow model, and it was blazing.
To my knowledge, it was the first SUV we've done full laps at Roebling with.
Well,
from asking the other
I'm not
producers.
sure if is that right?
We were trying to debate that.
I'm not sure.
We had the
Maybe.
Callaway Escalade, but
Yes,
we didn't
we
do around
did.
the whole track with that.
I just did that on the
And
cane.
Yeah.
Scriv said there might have been a Cyclone down there at some point.
Probably.
GMC Cyclone.
Yeah.
Long. We've been going there over 30 years.
But I don't know.
But this one, the Urus, was just a phenomenal performer, and yet, driving it away from the track, going to dinner, whatever, you're basically sitting in a lap of luxury. Although the interior always reminds me of a missile control room. It's a very phenomenal
Yeah,
vehicle.
that's where I think Lamborghini did a nice job of making it very Lamborghini. It's
Very
not like
Lamborghini.
it's just a Lamborghini car. I mean, it's the Q7, right?
Correct. But they
Basics.
they just started with the structure and put everything of their own on
Even
there.
the engine's different.
But you wouldn't know. I mean, it's all Lamborghini, like you said, inside like a mission control cockpit. I think the only thing that I was a little upset about, maybe not upset, but just I thought maybe we would have a little more Lamborghini exhaust note, which you don't quite get. It sounds fine. It's just not Lamborghini.
Right. It's the 4-liter turbo from they've built their own version of it, but yeah, it's not the same as 10s or 12s, that's for sure.
They bill it as the world's fastest factory SUV, 190. I know we didn't get quite that fast, but were you impressed at the end of the quarter mile? Or the end, not the quarter,
yeah, for
the
sure.
straightaway.
Yeah, brakes were phenomenal, and we were getting close to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the one question, would you buy this or a Trackhawk? Because they have about the same amount of horsepower. I think the Jeep Trackhawk has a little bit more. Granted, the price is way different, but you
They're
win.
still making the Trackhawk?
I assume that the Grand Cherokee Trackhawk is still for sale.
Okay.
But I don't know, because I drove both, and I think I'd get the Trackhawk instead because
Yeah, but you're an old Jeep.
I'm
guy,
old school.
so-
I'm old school, so maybe I'm biased. But
Come on, you want one of the rarest cars in the world? Well, actually, they're both pretty rare.
I was gonna say I'd keep the extra $100,000, but no, I did it when one other thing it did really well. Nobody else has mentioned is Lamborghinis are supposed to get people's attention, and ours was bright yellow. And sure enough, we took it out to dinner one night.
Everybody turned.
Oh,
their
and people
heads.
were taking pictures. What is that? What is that?
Well,
One-
they've never seen it before, except in pictures.
Right, one kid came up and he's like, "Oh, I've never seen one." He said, "I'm trying to convince my dad to buy one, but he won't. He doesn't want to." Well, yeah.
Oh well, well-heeled father.
I said, "Good luck with that, man."
On the flip side of that, we also had at Roebling this year the Hyundai Veloster N, the first of the N-brand, sub-branded performance machines from Hyundai. We mentioned it briefly in the previous podcast because it won one of our Best Cars of the Year awards. But now we've had the Veloster N on a racetrack. You know what the regular Veloster drives like. Was it that big a difference?
Yeah, it was a totally different car from the regular Veloster. Yeah, 2-liter turbo in there. They did a lot with the handling, obviously. So, plus the whole new front end with a different limited slip differential and torque vectoring and all that stuff. Amazing amount of corner speed with that car, and super flat, but not like away from the track. It wasn't harsh riding at all. Good package all around.
It was a track sleeper. I mean, driving it on the street, you would never imagine that it handled that well on the track or was that well behaved, it had that
agreed.
much feel, and you could really take it as deep as you could and really ride those rumbles and have total control.
I agree with
amazing.
night and day between that and the standard Veloster.
Manual transmission only, and it's a sweet
Nice
short
manual.
throw shifter, rev matching.
What gave it away for me is we were shooting the interior footage of the car, and I got in, and you'd go through all the touch screens and go through all the menus and stuff for the camera. And when you go into the N mode stuff, you realize just how many customizable settings there are for your differential and your shifting and your engine, and your
Rev
throttle mapping, your rev matching,
exhaust noise,
and the amount of traction control you want. I mean, it had like all kinds of different choices to turn this stuff on or off or to high or low, and that's how you kind of can tell, at least to me, that showed that they were serious about this is a performance version of the Veloster. It's not just some stickers and some and a different muffler. It actually is the whole package,
And a customizable one at that.
right.
For
So
a modest price.
millennials and their phones will love all the things you can change and customize, right? Isn't that what the kids want these days?
You are one.
But even with the optional performance package, which adds bigger brakes and different wheels and tires, some other things, it's still under $30,000, which is pretty amazing, really.
Would you say that's, we've only had a handful of front-wheel drive vehicles at Roebling over the years that have been this impressive. I mean, it's got to be in a small group.
Yeah.
I would definitely say that.
I remember the Focus ST we had there. It was pretty fun for a front driver. This
Yep.
one was definitely up there.
Mazda Speed 3 was really
Yeah.
fun.
I will say, Hyundai, if you're listening, would love to take this car to Summit Point, the Shenandoah circuit. Because I remember driving the Focus RS there, and I had a blast. Because this is the kind
Nice,
of
tight little circuit.
yeah, it's small. It's not. There's really not that long of a straight, but yeah, a lot of just fun turns. And this is the exact type of car that's fun for us because even though we drive more than the average person on the track, we're not professionals. So this is a car that we can all just take pretty much to the edge of our limit and be very confident in it. And that's a lot of fun.
Hear that, Hyundai? We've got another date for you. Thanks, everybody. Let's move on now to Trevor, who has a viewer question for us. Hello, all. He says, love the TV show and podcast. Thank you very much, Trevor. What midsize sedan do we think will be the next one to get killed off in the SUV and crossover apocalypse? Help me.
Apocalypse.
Apocalypse. I can't say that today. Gosh, what did I have for lunch? All right, Joe, what do you think?
Oh,
Apocalypse.
I'm sure that Chevy is straddling this line where they want to be the last American midsize sedan, but they also don't want to make a car they can't make money on. So I'm sure that there's some sort of debate at GM with, do we go all in and make this better, or do we cut our losses?
About Malibu?
Yeah, Malibu.
Yeah,
surely the
I guess
Malibu.
I don't think that'll happen.
Yeah, because if there was still the Fusion or something, well, then maybe they say, well, it's not worth it. But I just don't. I think there's a pride thing there. So I don't know.
I don't think
maybe
it's Malibu. I think it could either be Volkswagen Passat because they may need that Chattanooga production line for more SUVs, or maybe even somebody like the Hyundai Sonata.
I'll weigh in.
Yeah, go.
Without basing too much on knowledge and numbers and sales figures. As sad as it is, the Mazda 6, in my opinion, it's a beautiful car. But I feel when people are getting to the dealership, all their SUVs are just as equally stunning. And I can't remember the last time I see a Mazda 6 on the road. Every time I do, I notice it and notice how pretty it is, but I just don't see them.
That's actually a very, very good observation.
I'm really bad at making predictions and even really wanting to make predictions, but I would go with maybe the Legacy. Do they still make the Legacy?
Well, they're
Subaru
actually
Legacy?
coming
There's a new one right now. Yeah.
You took my answer.
Oh, my bad. Just it's definitely not going to be anything from Honda. Any of the big Japanese brands.
I don't think Honda or Toyota
sure,
will discontinue.
See, I was going to go to Lexus, and I'm probably wrong, but maybe you could see him killing off something like the GS or something like that. I don't know, because
Which
luxury
a car
buyers,
they've actually never made that much sense to me anyway.
yeah, luxury buyers like their SUVs more so maybe than the average buyer. So I don't know.
Well, there you go, Trevor. That's more of a smorgasbord than I thought that we'd come up with.
Be on the lookout for discounts.
Apocalyptically styled, huh?
Said be on the lookout for discounts. If one of those cars gets canceled.
If you are looking at any kind of a sedan, if you actually want a sedan, it's a wonderful time to buy.
Oh yeah, a friend of mine got 0% financing on
Just the MSRPs are so much lower for the same equipment. I mean, the only thing you're really missing is a square back and a fifth door. So.
And a wiper blade.
And a wiper blade. That's another story. Thank you, Trevor. Our lightning round. Each of us gets 30 seconds to weigh in on a trending topic, followed by further discussion and usually ignoring the bell. It's auto season, which means automakers are rolling out new concept cars, many of which are bold, beautiful, and usually packed with features that never reach production. Does anybody in our group get excited about concept cars anymore, or is it just a bunch of PR smoke and mirrors?
I still get excited.
I think it's a good look at the styling for the future. I think that's still the main point they use them for.
I like that VW Baja, that dune buggy.
Yeah,
That was pretty cool.
I was actually thinking this to myself when I was walking around in Detroit. It's rare for me to get excited for a concept car just because, I don't know, personal preference. I like things that are coming to market now. I'm much more. If there's two cars, a concept car and a car that's going into production next month, I'm going to go walk up to the car that's coming out next month, and that's just my personal preference.
Joe, since you got the bell.
I'd say I used to be kind of negative on concept cars. It's like, okay, it gets 50 miles to the gallon, has 900 horsepower, and it's never going to be built. It's always it seems like a bunch of false promises. But after talking to a guy who worked in automotive styling, he said those were their favorite things to work on because there's no rules.
Sure, they don't have to worry about making it producible.
Right, and so I guess I'm a little less cynical now having known that. Yeah, because I know that some guy in the styling department got to have fun.
Yeah. Brian Robinson.
Well, there's many different kinds of concepts. I'm not such a big fan of like the really far out ones that have no relevance to actual production, where they got like natural grass interiors or powertrains that run on. Like,
this year was bamboo was the big thing.
It's like if it's something like awesome and it looks like they could pull that off and actually make it, I'm all about that. But stuff that has no relevance, I'm not, whatever. Don't waste the time.
Sometimes I think concept cars are best when you look back at them 30 or 40 years later.
Oh,
as part of the automotive history.
Oh, go watch the MotorWeek retro reviews. There's one that was like the Buick Questor. This is like 82 or something. Yeah. It had like all these screens and it even has satellite navigation. Oh well, what's that? I've never heard of that before.
Big foreteller of the future.
Yeah.
Follow-up to that, what bizarre and unpractical features would you put in a concept that might never reach production? What is it, so put your thinking cap on. If you were going to wow a crowd at an auto show, which is pretty tough.
Greg and I were talking about this yesterday when I was making the rundown for this podcast, and I immediately thought of the movie The Santa Claus, where he's in the sleigh, and he's like, "Oh, cool, CD player." He's like, "No, Dad, CD stands for cookie dough," and it dispenses a chocolate chip cookie. I know that, of course, I'd be the guy to go with food accessories. I'm sure that that's a perfect fit for me. But all I could think of was how cool it'd be to have like a cookie dispenser in the dash.
I don't know how we could top that, Joe.
The CD. Ooh, compact disc.
Right. No, Dad, cookie dough.
I would have a car that had like a golf course or lawn pop-up things that that you can water large areas of land with.
Like pop-up sprinklers, you mean?
Designed in there, and they would pop up and automatically wash the car from time to time.
Now that's interesting. An automatic car wash as you drive. No other takers?
I wrote down a few.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to hear these.
Well, this just came to mind. Ejectocito from Fast and Furious.
Yeah. Oh, that was a good one.
Let's see. A drone that can run errands for me.
Hey, a drone.
While I'm sitting in
Good.
traffic and man, I forgot my chapstick.
Speed
Spam.
Racer.
Let the drone go up and see what's really holding up traffic.
3D printer in the situation that something goes wrong in the car and I need a part. Bam, I'm printing something. I'm printing the part out.
That's awesome.
And then car-to-car messaging for that situation.
That's coming.
Where
Somebody
I need to hurl
cuts
an
you off.
insult at somebody.
You've got mail.
I guess you could also use the drone for that situation. Let's just drop a little note that says, "Hey, idiot."
I kept
Speed
wondering,
up.
on that vein, I keep wondering, and I suppose it's because no one wants to get shot, why someone doesn't make instead of a retractable spoiler, put a retractable light bar that spells out words that you can type.
Back off.
Back off. If you can read this, it's going to cost you your insurance.
I had a friend
And then
that just used to throw change, kept a cup full of change, and just threw change at people that met on the highway.
Definitely illegal.
Can you imagine getting hit with a handful of change in the middle of the night?
That'd be terrifying.
Take your lights out, but you wouldn't know what it was.
It's terrifying.
Like,
Get hit with a handful of pennies at 60 miles per hour. You're
get
going
it
to do some
freely,
damage, dude.
Oh, some very creative responses there to that question. And I think that basically that's a really good place to wrap up this MotorWeek podcast number 199. Thanks, everybody at the table, Brian Robinson, Greg Carlos, Ben Davis, and Joe Ligo. And thanks to all those out there that sent in questions and participated. Our audio engineer, Julian Kuchman, who has made sure that we come through loud and clear. Our podcast creator is Bob Mixter. And, of course, Joe Ligo produced today's podcast. Thank you all for being a part of our show. Remember, you can watch MotorWeek on public television stations around the country. Just go to our MotorWeek.org website, pull down the tab of stations, put in your zip code, and there it is. If you have a chance to watch us on commercial cable, be sure to tune in to the Motor Trend Network, where we are delighted to be one of the programs they show week after week. Till next time, thank you all for being a part of our MotorWeek family, and we'll see you next time.
You have been listening to the podcast of MotorWeek, television's original automotive magazine. MotorWeek is made possible by TireRack.com, WeatherTech, RockAuto.com, and State Farm. For additional information on podcasts, videos, and showtimes, visit our website at motorweek.org. And watch MotorWeek, television's longest-running automotive magazine series each week on your local PBS station.